G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle, and today let's talk about Nurgle in 40k. Yeah, we've spoken about it quite a bit, and I've noticed on previous videos I still get a lot of comments talking about how, well, basically my only complaint seems to be about the paint jobs, and there's nothing wrong with the paint jobs. I disagree with that statement. In fact, I feel that I'm pretty much right on the money when I say that Nurgle's changed a lot, and I can't quite cope with the fact that people don't seem to get what I mean when I say that. They keep saying that same line to me over and over. You just hate the paint job. The miniatures look perfect. And I'm trying to think to myself, how do I tackle this subject? How do I get my point across? You see, the hard part about making these videos on YouTube is if you don't use the exact right wording, people get the wrong meaning out of your words. And it's really hard, especially when you're trying to cross language barriers, because a lot of people on YouTube aren't native English speakers. They don't get the little slang, the nuances of what you're trying to say, especially if you use your local inflections, your local dialogue. And so I sat there thinking, how come people don't get what I'm saying when it comes to Nurgle? It's quite obvious. They've changed a fuckload over the years. And I don't mean over the whole span of Nurgle. I mean, in the last year or two, Nurgle, the aesthetic has changed dramatically, and people keep saying to me, it's fine, there's no problem with it. And no, it is completely different. What I need to do is explain what Nurgle is, what the Death Guard are. And before I start, I want to say, if you like the new style, that's 110% okay. Seriously, nobody can tell you off for liking things, and I'm not trying to make people hate on Games Workshop or hate the direction that Nurgle's taken. What I want to do is bridge the gap here and say what it is about this new Nurgle that doesn't appeal to a large section of the community, because there are a lot of people who don't like the new style of Nurgle, and the people who do like it don't see the problem. But what I'm going to do today is try and point it out. Like I've done in my Age of Sigmar videos previous to this, it's about perspective. I'm going to try and explain why I think Nurgle's changed, and the only thing I want people to take away from this is that, yeah, okay, maybe, just maybe, I've got a point. And you can draw whatever other conclusions you like. Again, if you like it, that's totally fine. I'm just saying I personally don't, and here's the things that I think are different, and why it doesn't work in my head. So, I'm going to have a few pictures that change throughout the background. I want you to take note of a couple of things with those. First is the old style of drawing, a lot of it's very Blanchitsu style, and of course the new style, as well as the colour palettes. How the older styles use a lot of sepia tones, and the new styles use a lot of rich colours. Cool colours, but rich colours. And how that itself gives a different meaning to what you see. So with all that in mind, let's break it down. Nurgle isn't happy as a whole. Now some would say Nurgle as a god is happy, and this is emphasised by the minions, foremost being the mischievous Nurglings. They embody the happy aspect of Nurgle the god. Now, when people talk about happiness and Nurgle in my other videos, this is the aspect they most commonly are referring to. Nurglings embody the loving nature of their god, and so does another creature, the beasts of Nurgle. But they're not happy. They're not humanoid in form. Instead, they're terrifying fleshy sacks of rotting flesh, trying to show their affection. They don't smile at people. They try to get close and perhaps cuddle their targets, but they're so terrifying, so inhuman, so toxic, poisonous, that they kill the people they try and get close to. This is where Nurgle's minions take a sudden and dramatic change of character. You see, when a beast of Nurgle gets sufficiently upset and angry, it mutates. It forms a cocoon, and from that, it turns into a nightmarish insectoid creature that has only spiteful emotions. That isn't happiness, the happiness that so many people like to cite as being Nurgle's defining trait of late. Uniquely among demons, plague bearers are formed from the souls of mortals, specifically from the victims of Nurgle's rot. As the victim grows physically sicker and sicker, his soul begins to decay as well, forming a monstrous pod-like structure in Nurgle's garden, which breaks open to form a new plague bearer as soon as the victim either accepts Nurgle's gifts, quote-unquote, or succumbs to the disease. They stride purposely into battle, uttering only a sonorous chant, tallying the dead. Again, not happiness. They don't stride into battle with big derpy smiles on their face, happy about their job. You see, they are the sole remnants of mortals who suffered an extremely agonizing death. Such a terrifying death that they actually left a mark in the warp because of it. Now, when you look at something like Sloppity Bile Piper, do you get that image? No, of course not. He's a circus clown, and people explain it as, oh well, Nurgle's a happy god. This guy represents that. Where it really falls down is the Death Guard themselves. Well, what about the Death Guard? Well, let's talk about their identity. You see, the identity of the Death Guard is key to why they're not the guys you should be running around with smiles on their face. You see, the Death Guard came from a planet called Barbarous. And Barbarous was such a horrible planet that if it were not the home of a Primarch, it's the sort of planet which the Imperium would just destroy. I'm not joking there. They seriously say in the books it would have been subject to an exterminatus order, if it wasn't the home of Mortarion. The Death Guard prided themselves on the fact that they could survive on this very toxic world, and their induction into the Legions and the gift of Mortarion's gene seed further strengthened their ability to survive all manner of poisons and toxins and acids and other corrosive and horrible things. Throughout the Great Crusade, they fought in all kinds of alien environments, such as on spaceships where the aliens breathed chlorine gas, which anyone who's familiar with it would just kill people. It was used as a gas in World War I for that reason. It was so toxic. The Death Guard were proud of the fact they could fight in this sort of environment. They could fight against all sorts of weapons. They built their immunities up. They took pride in the damage inflicted on their armour, even showing it off so long as it didn't impair the performance of their vehicles or their personal suits. Book 1 of the Horus Heresy series from Forge World really delves into this if you want to read more on it, and it has some beautiful artwork too. Anyway, long story short, they ended up trapped in the warp due to shenanigans, and they were infected by Nurgle with a plague which even their superhuman bodies couldn't stop. It was killing them, making the very flesh drop from their bones in rotted heaps on the floor. Mortarion the Primarch was of course the one who was the strongest, who had the greatest pride. Now he'd failed before when tested, when he failed to kill the horror that was his foster father on his homeworld. This alien creature that had basically enslaved the humans of that world and made Mortarion do his bidding until Mortarion realised that, hey, these people are humans and I'm a sort of human. This guy's a monster and I need to kill him. And he made a bargain with the Emperor when he came to Barbarous, and it was basically, I'll serve you if I fail to kill my foster father. And he failed. He swore after that to never fail again on any task that tested his endurance, because his pride was so shattered by that event. Now, how batshit insane was Mortarion? Well, he used to go around breathing from oxygen tanks instead of the air around him. Okay, seems fine, until you realise that the oxygen tanks were actually full of toxic air from his planet Barbarous, the air from his home world, and that every time he breathed, he basically inhaled corrosive toxins which would kill dozens of normal men. And on top of this, he would drink a celebratory toast after every engagement. Except instead of a lovely port or a nice scotch, he would drink basically toxic waste. Droplets of the cups, when they fell on the ground, would burn holes in the floor like blood in the movie Alien. He put down the other traders for being so weak that they fell to chaos, that they had to use chaos powers, and that they needed mutation and demons to help them. He felt superior to all that. So when Mortarion is stricken by this plague, when his body decays around him, sloughing off him and breaking down to the point where even he can't move, Mortarion, the Primarch, can't physically move. He finally gives in to Nurgle. Mortarion is mentally broken by this experience. His psyche is shattered. You see, he's failed again. Not once, but twice has he now failed. The only two great challenges ever in his life, and he failed them both. And not only that, he was fighting for the wrong side, fighting for chaos, which he despised. He had become everything he hated, and his bitterness and hatred only intensified because of this. Now, this was a Legion-wide situation. The Death Guard were prideful and bitter prior to the fall. Afterwards, dial it up to 11, and you get some idea of the character of the Legion. They despise everything about what they have become, because their mere existence is a demonstration of their weakness to others, how they failed when put to the ultimate test. They want to inflict pain and suffering on others as a way of coping with what they have become. They basically take out their own issues on other people. Now, does this strike anyone as a happy group of people, smiling as they serve Nurgle's purpose? They don't even willingly serve the god, it's grudging service at best. He gave them their lives and they owe him for it, despising every moment of it, however. Nurgle doesn't represent happiness. Nurgle merely sees nothing wrong with what he does. He sees the pain and suffering he imbues on people as a gift, not as torture. And when it comes to the sculpts of the Death Guard range, the horns, the coral-like growths on his marines, I feel it fundamentally misunderstands his form of decay. Nurgle is static, unchanging. It's the end of things, stagnation. Tzeentch, on the other hand, is the changer of ways, the god of growth and potential. They're polar opposites. When Nurgle affects the Plague Marines, they don't sprout magic mushrooms and coral. Those are growths. Those are new things, new life coming from death. Nurgle may represent life coming from death, but not in that way. He represents the end of the cycle. Those great changes and potential becoming manifest are not Nurgle's gift. A true representation of the forces of Nurgle is decay, stagnation of armour and tanks falling apart as they rot and rust. The Marines are sloshing bags of rotting, maggot-infested flesh trapped within these decaying shells of armour. They can feel the parasites eating their way through their flesh and bodies. They can see their own bones sticking out through their decayed flesh. They don't bolt on extra armoured plates and such. They don't need it. They're immune to the pain, to regular damage. They have no desire to preserve their forms. They're the very opposite of the direction I feel they went in over the last year or so. And that is why I feel that this form of Nurgle, which Games Workshop is pushing now, well, it's not the Nurgle I grew up with. It's his Mexican cousin, El Nurgle. Now, at the end of all of this, don't take it as a, this is wrong, this is a bad direction, Nurgle can't go this way. Not at all. If you enjoy it, that's great. But for those of us who really like the darker aspects of the god, we prefer the other way. And no one is right or wrong here. But throughout this, I've tried to show off what Nurgle looks like. As you'll see in the artwork, these bright colours, these happy colours represent a different tone. Rich, strong, vibrant greens represent life. Green is a colour of life. Whereas those brown sepia tones, they're the opposite. They're decay and death. The old art really embodied Nurgle, whereas the new art, these bright colours, it doesn't work for me. And it doesn't work for a lot of people. Now, I don't really want to come and cover Nurgle in 40k again. I think it's been done. I think next time out I'll probably cover something like Khorne, because that hasn't had a good look in a while, and Khorne's one of those ones in 40k that's basically fallen into one single emotion over time, which is rage. They don't seem to cover off on all the other aspects of the god, like honour and glory, and there's a bit that can be said about Khorne. All that aside, the next video I want to do, I want to cover off on some of the work I've been doing in my hobby lately. So I want to show off some of the models I've done, and right now you'll see a few little pictures on screen, or a picture in fact, that shows off a couple of characters that are a little bit of a teaser for what's to come. Good things are coming. as far as this subject goes, I think we've hit the wall now. Nurgle is different. Let's accept it, okay? Let's not go around and say, oh, Nurgle's happy. No, happiness is one aspect of the god. He's not the god of happiness, he's the god of decay. He may be a happy god, but he's the god of decay, and most of his minions represent that aspect of him. It's the Nurglings that represent his happy aspect, and just the Nurglings. Not all these other demons, and especially not the Death Guard themselves. Okay? So, can we just agree on that? Anyway, Mac with the Outer Circle, thank you all for watching this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback below, as always. Again, if you think I'm wrong about something, point it out and explain your reasoning behind it. I always encourage that. The only thing I discourage is people who go off on tangents or say random things that have absolutely nothing to do with the current situation. Also, I'll be doing another AMA soon, so where you get to ask me anything you like. When the time comes, well, there'll be a video on it. Anyway, see you all next time.